So we're going to start. We're already on UTSC time, so I want to get going so we have enough time to enjoy everyone who's involved tonight. So welcome to Man Up, Redefining Masculinity in 2013. I'm Rushman Brodia. I'm project manager of Build.Act.Change, Connecting Violence Together. We're a UTSC project working to engage this community to really look at and prevent gender-based violence and violence against women in all its forms. We're really fortunate to have some partners on this campus, and that includes the Department of Student Life, the SCSU, the Student Union, Campus Police, Women and Gender Studies, as well as the Women's Center on campus and the Assault Counselor and Educator Genocide campus as well. Our goals are to build awareness, act to make a difference, and help to support positive change at UTSC. And that includes building awareness of the experience of fear and the threat of violence and how that affects women on post-secondary campuses like UTSC, how all members of the community can come together and work together to prevent gender-based violence and violence against women in all its forms. We also act to promote safety for women on this campus so that they feel safe to talk about safety and that men are engaged as allies in the issue so that they feel like they're part of the discussion as well and part of the solution to this problem that takes communities worldwide. So, without further ado, I'm going to introduce a few survival stories. They're a new group of amazingly talented youth in the community. They talk openly about abuse, and they support survivors of violence with positivity and healing that uplifts the mind and soul. I was fortunate enough to hear them perform in the early fall at Victoria Village Library. They have, I think, monthly sessions where the community is welcome to come and attend and share their stories and hear the stories of survivors. We'll start off with a performance by Charney. She's a 17-year-old Haitian-born singer-songwriter whose talents include playing guitar, piano, bass, and drums. And she'll be performing an original piece called Let It Out. me my pieces, my pieces, 'cause you broke glass that can't be replaced. Only love can make me whole again. Love is making me whole again. And the next time you hit, I swear you'll miss and not get is a broken reflection. And I hope you see your broken reflection in me, my pieces, 'cause you broke glass that can't be replaced, and only love can make me whole again, and love is making me whole again, and the next time you hit, I swear you'll miss and not again. And you will see your broken reflection in me. I was never the one who was broken. You needed it a way out of seeing yourself, so you broke me open and then called me broken. You broke me open and then called me broken. You broke me open and called me broken. You broke me open and then called me broken. And only love can make me whole again. And love is making me whole again. Only love can make me whole again. Love is making me whole again. Only God can make me whole again. And love is making me whole again. And the next time you hit, I swear you'll miss and all again is a broken reflection. A powerful, gifted storyteller with a captivating voice. He has a wealth of experiences that he brings to his performances. He worked as a social worker in New York. He was an inner city teacher. He's an award-winning poet. He was seen on Russell Simmons' Duck Poetry. He's an actor. He was in Spike Lee's Inside Man with Denzel Washington. He's also the author of Man Up, Reimagining Modern Manhood. Carlos's life and work is about urging men of all ages to break society's rules of conformity and to reconsider not just what it means to be a man, but what it means to be a good man. And we are so grateful to have him with us here today. Please help me to welcome Carlos.
I feel like so moved and so raw right now. Is anybody else with me? God. Oh, I feel like I'm like someone dropped a match like right in my gut and like lit me on fire in like the best kind of way. And I feel like I want to cry, and I feel like I fell in love like 10 times. And I know that I love Randall. I don't know where he is. He's like the most incredible human being, tied with everyone else in this room who's ever lived. Gosh. I love when there are events and they start like that, because I feel so, you know when you're like talking to your best friend, you can't lie because that person knows everything. If you're lying, they'll know in a second. I feel like all of us are best friends right now. But before I say anything else, actually, I want to say this, especially whenever I'm talking about gender, I think it's very important that I say this. Anything that I have to say about gender was made possible, and it stands on the shoulders of women I know, women I don't know, countless women who've been doing this work for millennia, well before it was popular or romantic or sexy or cool or appeared on TED.com, in eras where you get killed and when you get beaten, you know what I'm saying? People like Alice Paul and like my mom, Patricia Hill Collins and Anna Julia Cooper and Dolores Huerta and Bell Hooks. I don't know if I said Patricia Hill Collins. If I did, I'll just say her a second time. Gloria Steinem and Eve Ensler, and more people than I could ever name, and my abuelita, my grandmother. And I know that right now it's really easy for like some guy who does spoken word and is edgy and from New York and sounds really cool and everything else to get up here and talk about gender and masculinity and ending violence against women and us being better men. But there are two things that I think any man who's on stage or on linoleum orange floor who's talking has to say I think for me I should even be allowed to speak. I shouldn't be allowed to speak unless I say this. Number one, that I am a part of the problem and a part of the solution and a big source of my own work. So if I want to change men, I got to change myself first and continue to unlearn. And number two, that I have to acknowledge and be humble to the teachings and the work of the women who have come before me and are still here and will come in the future. So please clap for them, clap for Rise, clap for survivors of abuse. And the last woman I named was my abuelita, my grandmother, who passed away last summer. But it's okay. She lived a full life. She was 102 years old, according to one of her 4 birth certificates. Her youngest one. And she lived a full life, right? Clap if you currently have or have ever had a grandmother you love very much. Okay. And she was my hero. She was from the old school, from another era, but she always made me feel beautiful. She always made me feel like I was enough. And so I want to open with this poem for her in honor of all those other women I named. And this is called Hallelujah, and it goes like this. 8 months shy of 100. And still filled with the wonderment of a child, my grandmother is a revelation tumbling in on itself. Songs and secrets snaked into the creases of her smile. Her 63-year-old hunches washing dishes in the sink. Her knees in 2nd grade tear through the living room like a derailed train car. Prayer-swollen hips from her wedding photos. Call up to a rosary. Ask for life. And I am molded clay from the hands with which she now holds my chubby face. I am small and curious. Ay, mijito, my dear son, she squeals. Tan bello. So beautiful. These are the words she uses to anchor each day. And I am jealous of how she does the abandon with which she soaks it all up. Her face is a yawning earthquake of tremor and pulse. Her hands the tectonic plates of her body's fierce hope. Her head stuttering out music as it tries to focus on just one thing. Now she takes in my sister. Awkward middle school face of pockmarked acne in her hands. Ay, mijito, my dear daughter, tan bella, so beautiful. My sister smiles. She is truly beautiful for the first time in her life. Wears a sash of blushing cheeks. Mijito, my dear child. Tan bello, so beautiful. In a world of envy-fueled violence, where hate explodes out of our scars like weeds, the lessened versions of ourselves spreading like wildfire, my grandmother is a revelation tumbling in on itself, a repeating gospel on loop, where each person she meets is a child, returns the miracle and amazement we left in our Velcro shoes, awakens our bodies with the suddenness of her eyes. Everything is beautiful. Keloid and awkward is beautiful. Adolescent girls are beautiful. Men, for the first time, can be called beautiful. Her hands reach for the sun as though it were food, a cloud. As we walk, she shakes, awed by the emerald hue of fresh grass hugging her apartment building like jealous, thirsty arms. My grandmother is the ripest hallelujah, where everyone is a child, is a dear daughter, a dear son, has a story and roots and branches twisting embrace through the sterile bars of a subway car, picking it up where every object, moment, everything in the sparkling gasp of an earth is not just beautiful. It is more than beautiful. It is too beautiful. It is so, so beautiful. There were two people who made me feel like I was beautiful and I was enough when I was a little boy. My mom and my abuelita. When it came to pretty much everyone else, I felt like I was inherently flawed. What was the great source of this? So the great source of this was this. Gender enforcement. Anyone know what gender enforcement is? Raise your hand if you've ever heard the term gender enforcement. Okay, two people. I'm sure more of you actually know what gender enforcement is. So I'm going to give you two stories. So the first, I'm 5 years old, and I'm playing YMCA soccer. Anyone here play YW, YM, some youth league soccer thing when you're in kindergarten or preschool? Okay, anyone ever seen it before? Raise your hand if you've ever seen it before. You have a niece, nephew, child. Okay, yeah. So you know how 5-year-olds play soccer or football? Sorry, I don't know what you call it in Canada. Football? Soccer? Okay, okay. The first time I came here, I talked about the bathroom for like 10 minutes. They're like, were you shower? Like what? The washroom. Oh! Let's forget it. All right. So 5-year-olds play soccer, right? It's like 80 kids surrounding around a ball, right? The ball stays in one place. Everyone's like kicking each other in the shin like this, like in a circle. Someone accidentally hits it, goes going down the field, and everyone goes like running after it. Right? Anyone seen this soccer before? Okay, now you know what I'm talking. Now we're on the same page. Okay, cool. So someone kicks the ball down the field, and everyone's going running after. So I go running. Any physics majors in here? Science people? Okay, cool. My man, physics professors right here. These two right here. So when you're 5 years old, correct me if I'm wrong, like most people's heads on average are like a third the size of their body, correct, right? It leads their body, and when you're running full speed down a hill in a descent at full speed with your head leading you, what usually happens, physics people? What? You fall forward. Yeah, anyone ever seen this film before? Okay. So I'm running after the ball, I trip, and I do a tooth plant onto a rock in the middle of the field. Then we all feel that. We're like, oh. So I'm like sobbing hysterically in a pile in the middle of the field. I didn't get anywhere near the ball. I see my coach go running onto the field. So I like, it's like, oh, he's here to save me. Put my arms out. Hey, coach. What's wrong with you? What are you, a little baby? What are you, a little boy? I was like, yeah. Man up! Stop crying! What are you, a little girl? Get out there, man. I'm 5 years old. Any men in this room? Does this sound familiar to any guys in this room? Some version of that? Why is there almost every man's hand up in this room? This even happens in Canada? Really? Isn't that an American thing? And I kept getting these messages that were telling me that everything that I inherently was wrong. So what was I inherently? I was as sensitive, nurturing, expressive, creative, loving. I didn't want to have to be, I didn't understand homophobia. I just never got it. I honestly just like didn't understand it. I was like, why? What? Like I didn't understand, like I remember being 13 on the subway platform in New York. So I'm 13 years old with like my big like L beam backpack on. I'm just like sitting there with a chair. I was an earnest kid, you know. At 13 I was. And so like this like maybe like 15 or 16-year-old girl goes like walking past. There's like a 35-year-old guy. He's like, psh. Psh. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about, right? You know what I'm talking about, right? Right? And I was like, and I'm 13. I'm like, what? like there were so many levels that I was like, I mean, like I just didn't understand the rules yet. And I was like, is this like what guys do? And does that sound familiar to any guys? Does this happen in Canada? This happens in Canada too? Unbelievable. What's going on? My image of Canada is like, so I kept getting these messages that I wasn't following this handbook of being a guy. Of course, there's no actual handbook. And nobody very rarely like explicitly tells you what it is. You just find out when it's wrong. Right? So that was my earliest memory, was playing soccer right there. My second earliest memory, right? I'm 6 years old, next summer. I'm visiting my family in Bogota, in Colombia. My family's Colombian, right? This miraculous thing is happening. My older sister Sarita is sitting in one chair. My tia Consuelo, my aunt, is in another chair. And they're painting their hands with paint on their hand. I was like, this is incredible. I always get in trouble for painting things. I'd be like painting the wall in my room. I just like take paint and be like painting the plate at dinner. My mom's like, what are you doing? You're allowed to paint your hand as a human being. This is a miracle, right? So I was like, this is incredible. And my sister's sitting there, and she's painting this like miraculous like lavender on her left hand. I was like, oh my God, that color, I want to like eat it. It looks so good, right? It looks like delicious, right? And my aunt is sitting there, and she's painting her hand a light salmon color, we'll call it, right? She's painting her right hand. And this is amazing. I was like, cool. I was like, I'm next up, cool. I'll take lavender on this one and light salmon on this one. And my aunt's just like giggling. She's like, okay, Carlos Andres, okay. Okay, Carlos Andres. I was like I was like, okay, like, let's go. Like, I'm ready. Maybe alternate colors on the fingers. And she got like really upset. She's like, Carlos Andres, this is just for, you know, niñas, mujeres, not for boys. I was like, boys can't do this? Boys can't paint their, paint? I want to get my hands painted. I want to paint my fingernails. So she's like, okay. I'll say I didn't warn you. So I was like, all right, cool. So my sister takes one side, my aunt takes another. I'm like so hyped. I'm like watching my hands get painted. I'm like mesmerized. So I'm so proud. So she's like, you got to give it 10 minutes to dry. So I'm like, cool. So there's like a full-length mirror, and I'm like walking back like, you know what I mean? I was feeling so good. I was like doing like the Michael Jackson slide. I was like, oh my gosh. And then I hear like all this squealing outside, right? I hear all this squealing outside. There's like a soccer game in the courtyard. So I go like sprinting down the steps, and I go outside, and everyone's playing soccer, and it's sort of like that YMCA game. There's like one ball, and everyone's just like, no! You know what I mean? So we're playing, and I'm running after the ball, and I'm so proud. I'm kind of maybe also like putting my fingernails out because I'm kind of proud. And this older kid catches the ball. He's like, you can't play. He's like, you can't play. He's like, you can't play with your hands like that. He grabs my hand and he holds it up in the air. And I'll never forget, it was like 50 kids. And they're like pointing at my hand. They're like looking at it like there's a cyborg alien like crawling out of my hand. They're squealing and laughing. Like this is pre-text message, okay? So they're just yelling for their siblings. Their siblings come like running down the steps. Their parents are like laughing. And there's like, the whole neighborhood is like imploding around my two hands being painted. My fingernails being painted on both hands. And I had no idea that this was such a big deal. I just thought it was some cool thing for me to do, right? I was like, how could this not be cool for everybody, right? I'm 6 years old. I'll never forget running. I had sweatpants on, and I stuffed my hands in my sweatpants to hide them. And there's like tears going down my face, and I'm running back into the house. And I walk inside, and my aunt's like, she's like, do you hate that? Does anybody else hate that sound? Like my dad can just be like, I'm like, Papi, no. Like I'm 31 and I'll still have my dad. I'm just like, oh, God. And my aunt's like, I tried to tell you, Carlos Andres, but you didn't listen. There are some things that are for girls, and there are some things that are for boys. Now you know. And I remember sitting there like watching these beautiful paint being taken off my nails. And it was like a death for me. I was like 6 years. This was like a very intense moment of grief for me, right? Gender enforcement. Everyone understand what gender enforcement is now? Would anybody else here have a memory that's readily accessible of your gender being enforced, an early memory? Whatever gender identifier you have? And can you say your name too? I'm going to go boom and I'm going to go boom. Say your name.
I'm Colin.
Colin. Okay, cool.
Can you hear my story? So this was a while ago. It was back in grade 5 or so. And we'd always play this game where you just throw the ball at the wall of the school. There was a recess, and I think it was
supposed to be a Canadian thing. No,
it was called Redding or something. There was these interesting rules. You throw the ball. You're supposed to like not let others get it, but then sometimes you do, and all these interesting rules that people make up. But I remember one of the rules that you get all the letters, then you have to walk up to the wall, and you'll actually have someone throw the ball at you as sort of like a punishment for being the worst player. So this happened to me once, and it was the strongest kid in the school for some reason had been selected to throw the ball. And I was wearing like sunglasses at the time, so this really, really like significantly hurt my back, but I was just walking around thinking like, don't cry. I don't know why.
Yeah.
And I don't think it like punishes me. I don't think it ruined my life at all. But I just think it's a significant example of like why wasn't I allowed to cry in this situation or express my emotions. Like one friend was like, "It's okay, man, strongest guy." But I was still like,
I'm like the free pass. You also wear really cool shades, so it's all good.
Yeah, I wore them like 4 years after that. Like, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a great one. Yep.
Charney, I remember when I was 9 years old, like my mom's a hairdresser, and when we were in Philadelphia, like she would always give guys like shape-ups and all that. So I was just like, hey, one day I was like, hey, I should give myself a shape-up. Because I didn't know any better, I was 9 years old. And I gave myself a shape-up. And then I went to my mom and I was like, look, Mom, I gave myself a shape-up.
Yeah.
I was so mad at myself. I was like, it looks nice too. And then my mom got so mad. My dad, like, they all just started screaming, what's wrong with you?
Wow.
I was like, what's wrong? You guys do this all the time to people.
For a shape-up. Your hair's too closely cropped on the side of your head. Did you ever hear that?
I did.
Yeah.
In high school, I used to be known as the girl with the big butt. And
Wow.
It sounds funny, but it's actually not. Because I live in Markham, and I went to high school in Markham. And so I was one of the only black females in my high school, because it was a new high school. So like grade 9 when I started was the first year of the high school. So like all these guys from grade 9, 10, and 11 used to touch my bum all the time.
Wow.
And it sounds really weird saying it now, but like
Wow.
yeah, I used to feel like walking by, they used to just be like slapping it. And like I didn't really know how to take it because like I was young, and I guess as
You
a
were
girl,
in
like
ninth
the
grade?
attention.
You were
yeah,
in, wow.
9, 10, 11. Like I'm not gonna
Wow.
lie, like I felt like a little nice because I was young and naive, and I thought that that's what they wanted and all that stuff, blah blah. But I remember
Yeah.
like in grade 11, the first day of school, somebody tried to do it. And I picked him up by his shirt like this, and I pushed him against the locker. I'm sure he was stronger than me, but like he was caught off guard. I pushed him against the locker. And I was like, this year, don't touch my ass or I'll knock you out.
Wow.
And it's just funny because like no girls go around slapping guys' asses.
Yeah.
And I thought it was okay.
Yeah. Is anyone else horrified that like we live in a world where like even when you started the story, you're like, I know that sounds funny. I was like, that doesn't sound funny. That sounds like horribly dehumanizing and objectifying. You know what I'm saying? But like most people are like, yeah, that's hilarious. Yeah. That's hilarious. You know what I mean? I'm a man. The world's built for me. You know what I'm saying? Like that's hilarious. You know what I'm saying? Like that sounds like really funny. It's like that doesn't sound funny, right? Like it doesn't sound. That sounds. Isn't that like? I feel like we all have those stories regardless of where on the gender spectrum you identify now, like those stories of ideas of how we're supposed to comply with our gender or a perceived gender identifier, right? And then when you add in all these other parts of who we are, things that are related to race and class and national identity, cultural background, all these different factors, they all intersect and they have a unique experience for how we have it. So for me, what was my experience? I grew up similar to, I don't know if it was similar to Randall, but most of the young men that I was around, nobody had a father around. Most of the guys around me were black and Latino, and all of our heroes were like the superstars, right? Who are the superstars? Anyone know who the superstars are? Michael Jordan, Kobe Bryant, man. Yeah. But those were like our heroes. But like who were like our like everyday heroes? 50 Cent. No, 50 wasn't even born that yet. No, 50 was 2 years old. I'm 50. No. Ludacris. No, Ludacris wasn't even on. Was he on the scene? Wu-Tang, Jay-Z. No, you said what?
Jay-Z for sure.
The drug dealers. Damn right. Drug dealers were the stars, man. We'd see like, I remember there was this kid. He was this kid in our school who was a drug dealer, and he used to come in with like a new outfit every day. And like he'd walk down the hallway. He wouldn't go to class. He just like walked. He just come to school to walk down the hallway. Come on in. Come on in. You're welcome. Come on in. Just don't be shy. We're a community. You're our friend. Come on in. Don't be shy. No, it's all good. Sorry, was that moment awkward? Yeah. Yeah, I'm with that. There is only one moment we're living in, and it's the moment right now. So we're saying yes to anything. In the moment, come on in the room, sit down, change seats, make a friend, you know? Yeah, so I remember he would walk down the hallway, and he was like a star. He'd never go to class. He was like the most emotionally numb person I'd ever seen in my life, like outwardly. And I was like, I want to be that dude. He like walked in the hallway, he'd just be like, thanks. It's like walk out of the school. I was like, that is the coolest man who's ever lived. Like, I want to be that dude. You know what I mean? I wanted to be Kamor Yusuf. He was the star of the basketball team. He was like 6'5". He was all-state first team. You know what I'm saying? Like, he'd like dunk 3 times every game. He'd like, you know, grab his crotch after he dunked and like give the middle finger to the crowd at away games. I was like, I want to be that dude. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to be Kamor. You know what I mean? Like, that was like my dream in life. And so I started to try to make myself into that man. I had this plan. I was like, okay, so I've realized that all these things I inherently am are wrong, right? The sensitivity, the wanting to be like a nurturer. Like, I was the kind of person, like, I want to like talk about my feelings. And people be like, yo, stop. You're sounding like a woman. Like, just stop. I'd be like, because I'm talking about how I feel? What? Like, I remember one time my dad was dropping me off at school, and like I went to give him a kiss, and he was like, oh, okay, all right, cool. Yeah, excuse me. You know, I went to give my papi a kiss being dropped off for school, and he was like, oh, whoa, okay, all right, cool, have a nice day, all right. Maybe you have an experience like that with your father or some sort of parental figure at any point. Okay. So I had this plan. I was like, this is what I'm going to do. If what I am is wrong, it's a really simple equation, right? If what I am is wrong, and I want to become a man someday, what should I do? What's the easy solution? Any guesses? No one has a guess?
Follow your role models.
You said what?
Follow your role models.
Yeah, follow my role models. And just erase everything I am and become the person that hyper-masculine dude that I want to be, right? Isn't that the perfect solution? Like, if what I am is wrong, I'll just get rid of it and I'll start over and build myself into the man I need to be, right? So I'm 15 years old, right? I get a bench press for Christmas. I'm sitting in my basement. I was like, I had a room upstairs. Like, no, I'm going to sleep in the basement from now on a futon. You know what I mean? I'm like at the bench press, like sitting there, just like listening to like DMX's It's Dark and Hell is Hot. I'm just like, got no shirt on. I'm like, I was the ultimate man, okay? I got like ripped. I just like walk around school. I like wouldn't even put my arms down. I'd like walk through doorways and be like, excuse me. Yeah, I got this. All right. I'd like walk into class late. Just like sit wherever I want. I'm good, miss. Thank you. Just like sit down, you know what I mean? Like, I numbed all my emotional life. I stopped all my nurturing. I cut down on my affectionateness. I just walk around and be stoic and be robotic. And I was like, if I'm going to be a man, I'm going to be the man of all men. I'm going to be the ultimate man. I'm going to be the alpha male, the toughest guy in every single room. As you can see, I'm not like 6'8", or sorry, 2 meters 45, or like whatever's tall in Canada. 6 feet. I don't know if you use feet. I get Fahrenheit. They're like, I don't know what that is, dude. That's that warm, cold. But I realized it was like an attitude thing. So I'm 17 years old, and I feel like I have life figured out. Anyone here feel like you had life figured out at 17? Be honest. Don't lie. Most people should put their hands. No, you're Canadians. You're humble and thoughtful. I don't know. I have so many stereotypes about Canadians. I can't help it. Like, y'all are just so wonderful. Like, I try to not get away from that. You said what? Yeah, it's a little. Yeah, I'm my Timmy Hortons. Yeah. I'm half Canadian now. But I'm 17 years old, and I was certain I had life figured out. I'm co-captain of the basketball team. I was elected ladies' man at my high school. That was my title, ladies' man. I got like a moniker like before they gave monikers. I was runner-up for best strut and the winner of ladies' man. I was like, I won. I won masculinity. So I'm 17 years old, and there's a poetry assembly at my school. A poetry assembly. Like, people are going to go and read poems. Poetry. You know what I mean? So there's no way I'm going to show up to this. I mean, I was like, I might show up to this if maybe at the end. So I show up like 10 minutes late. It's like mandatory that the assistant principal's like yelling at me. I'm like, I got you, miss. Just chill out. I go and sit in the last seat in the back row. I'm there with my two friends from the basketball team. I sit in the last row. And there's this poet there named Martín Espada. This Puerto Rican, New Yorker poet. And he's reading from this book called Imagine the Angels of Bread. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, I hated poetry. I like, the only thing I hated more than poetry was like being authentic. Being who I was. Those are the two things I hated, like being who I was and poetry. So this guy starts reading poems, and I'm just like I learned to read when I was 9 years old. I was a slow reader. People called me dumb, stupid, special ed, every name in the book. I was trying to stay as far away from literacy as possible. And poetry was like the epitome of literacy to me, right? So this guy's reading from this book, and I started to like have this thing, this thing in here. It's like, you ever feel that thing like in here? Like in your torso, there's a little gremlin. You know the movie Gremlins? Just a little thing like moving in there. I was like, what? Something I ate. I'm like stretching. I'm like breathing. I'm like, God. My boy's like, yo, are you good? I was like, no, I'm feeling funny. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. He's reading from this book, and like I'm trying not to pay attention, but these poems. And then I feel this little gremlin start to like move up my torso, and I'm like, oh God, whoa, what's going on? Hey, whoa. Is it like too many push-ups or too much DMX and bench press? And then I start to feel like this like little thing in my throat, and I'm like, ah. Oh my God. And then I start to have this allergic reaction where water starts coming down my face. And my boy's like, yo, dog, are you crying right now? Over poetry? What are you doing? Are you losing your mind? Like, what's going on? And I was like, no, I was like pollen right now. It's just like, it's absurd. He was like, dude, he's like, it's December. There's no pollen. And I had the moment that was the first of two major watershed moments in my life. I call it the kneeling on the chair moment. AKA the guy standing in the door moment. At first, the AKA the guy standing in the door moment is, I do a lot of like talks like this, right? And I remember the first time I ever did one at Centennial College many years ago, right? It was like not many, it was like 4 years ago, right? I do this talk, and by the end, I counted. There were 37 men standing in the doorway. They stood there for 1 hour 1 hour, just like with their Timmy's double doubles, just like. And I was like, yeah. I was like, you can come in. They're like, you know, like they didn't want to enter the room. They just happened to like collaterally just sort of notice something and then just stand for an hour and 10 minutes and then keep walking, right? And so it was that moment, I call it the standing in the chair moment. That's the one I think of for myself, right? So it was like that moment, you ever have that moment happen where like you have to do two opposite things and they're life and death stakes with both opposite decisions? Can anyone relate to that moment? Right? So like, I obviously had to leave the room because I'd spent 17 and a half years building myself into the ultimate man, and now I was going to lose all that work, right? Right? I can't lose that. So like, I'm going to leave this poetry thing, go be a man, be like, yeah, I got this like, thing. I'll go handle that Panglong thing. I'll be back, right? But then it was like these poems. Like my soul needed these poems. Like I felt like my soul was going to die if I didn't get these poems. So I got up to leave. My boy's like snickering, making fun of me. And I kneel on the chair in the last row in the lower left corner of the auditorium. And I just stand there like on one knee for 45 minutes. And by the end of it, I'm like weeping. I'm like sobbing. Like snot, like ugly, beautiful, hysterical weeping. And I didn't even care at that point, right? My eyes are all red. I walk up to Martín Espada. I go to buy my first ever poetry book. I hated poetry. This guy like changed my entire course of my life. I go up and buy a copy of Imagine the Angels of Bread. And he looks at me, he's like, "You're a poet." I was like, and he like takes the book out of my hand. And he writes, "Para Carlos, poeta del futuro, Martín Espada." For Carlos, poet of the future. And he hands it back to me. I didn't say one word to him. It was like the universe was like, "Oh, you wanted to do that? Oh, you're actually going to do this. Here you go." You know what I mean? Like, I was like, oh, you know what I mean? And it was like that moment, it was like, how do you ignore a moment like that? Like, I had my whole life mapped out. I was like, I'm going to be the ultimate guy. I'm going to sleep, like Wilt Chamberlain slept with 20,000 women. I'm going to sleep with 200,000 women. And then, I'm never going to get married. I'm going to take over the world. I'm going to have like a 16-pack, and then I'm going to die one day. You know what I mean? Like, die fighting a war in my backyard. You know what I mean? Like, that was like my plan. Then I get this book, and I can't take my eyes off these poems. I start writing poems. I'd actually been journaling before he came, like quietly, these things that were like poetic journalings. And I was already having an identity crisis about it because I was like, who does this make me into? What does this mean to my life, right? So the next week I go to my first ever open mic with the only openly gay kid in my school. We were in English together. And I meet all these men that embrace this whole spectrum of gender. This whole spectrum of masculinity, of gender. It's fluid, it's changing, it's complex, it's beautiful. I was like, whoa, there aren't just like hyper machista robots on one side and like high-heeled damsels in distress on the other. Like, that's not the whole world. Like, what is this? How has this been kept from me, right? And I start writing more and more poems, then I start to open myself up and start to unpack. And that was the first day I realized two things. Number one, that I in fact had not erased any of those things I was trying to get rid of. None of it. None of the inherent things I was. In fact, what I had done was I had built a prison around it. I had built this concrete cell that enclosed all those things. But even though they were in a cell, they were still there. They were still seething underneath. And that day, I started to little by little take those bricks down and let those things out, okay? So 6 years later, it's 3:15 in the morning at a nightclub. It's that time of the night when like the lights go on. You don't have to go home, but you like got to get out of here, right? So it's like 1:15 downtown. No, what time does the club close in Toronto? Sorry, in downtown Scarborough? 2. Okay, so it's you're all really on time. It's like 1:57 in downtown Scarborough. So as much as I started to like take the bricks down, I still was clinging to this mold of this like masculine identity, right? So it's 3:15 in the morning. I'm walking out of a nightclub. I'm 10 feet from the door. I'm with two of my friends, and my shoulder brushes this guy's chest. And it wasn't like a, you know what I mean? It wasn't like that moment. And it wasn't like a barely brushing his chest. It was like a inadvertent, but like a bump, you know, like we both kind of fell back a little bit. Dude like rips off his sweatshirt, he throws it on the ground, like rips all of his rings off, takes his jewelry off, he's like, what's up? Everyone's like, this happens in New York. This has never happened in Toronto. No, does it? No, it actually does happen occasionally. Like, oh, sorry. No. I love Canada so much. No. So I always say the body is the source of the greatest wisdom and the least wisdom we are capable of. This story exemplifies both. First, the least wisdom, right? You ever heard your body do something that you are not in agreement with at all? Or like a word comes out of your mouth, you're like, ah! Right? You physically start doing something like, oh my gosh, what are you doing? Stop doing the robot, that's really corny. You know what I mean? Like in the middle of a performance. You know, like it just happens. So the dude steps up really hard without even thinking, like not one thought goes through my head. I'm just like, boom. Him and his 7 boys. Any math majors here? Math people? Me and my 2 boys. And it's that like reluctant moments. Unless you ever seen this moment happen, right? Where like the boys with the guys having a conversation are like, okay, we're doing this. Are we doing this? What are we doing? You know, the circle opens up. You know what I mean? There's always that one dude on the side. It's like, yo, you gonna let him talk to you? Like, yo, punch him in the face. Punch him in the face. Like, thanks, man. Thanks. You know what I mean? And it's that tense moment before a fight starts, right? Like you can cut it with a knife, right? It's like really tense, and like the anticipation is like swelling through the roof. But it's also like intensely like homoerotic too, right? Right? Y'all have seen this moment, right? Like our noses are barely touching, we're just like, shh. You know what I'm saying? I'm always wondering, like, side note, like what would happen if in that moment I like octuple next leveled it and was just like, like what would that do? You know what I'm saying? It's like, just like, no, but that didn't happen, right? So we're sitting there, we're nose to nose. We're like 2 3/4 centimeters away from each other's face, right? Has anyone here seen the movie Glory with Denzel Washington? Yeah. Glory, right? You've seen the powerful scene with Denzel, right? He's up against that thing, he's getting whipped, and he turns around, and the octuple tear falls, right? Y'all know about the octuple tear, right? He locked up his first oscar. Like the tears fall down his face, and you're like, oh, Denzel, oh, God. Give him like 10 Oscars, like, my gosh, right? Anyone here play, do you have kickball here? You don't have kickball here. It's called something else. Red ball, what's it called? No. Red A? Oh, you have kickball. There was some other country I was in, I was like, kickball. They're like, no. They're like, oh no, baseball foot. I was like, oh yeah, baseball foot. Like what? Okay, kickball. I was like in Sweden or something. Soccer baseball? Oh, it's called soccer baseball here. It was in Canada then. I got you. Hey, trying to be cool. So yeah, we call it kickball. Soccer baseball. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So soccer baseball. And you're in right field, and you're in the game, but you're not paying attention, are you? Because you're talking to your friend in center field, aren't you, right? You all know about this moment, right? And then like someone yells, and you turn around, and the ball hits you in the face going like 120 kilometers an hour. Has that ever happened to anybody here? Twice. Okay, you know what I'm talking about, right? And it hurts. It hurts a lot. But what hurts more than the ball hitting you in the face? What? Everyone's like, ah! Are you good? Are you good? Are you good? No. Are you good? And you're like, no, I'm good. Oh shit, I'm bleeding. You ever had that moment, right? You're good until you see all the red stuff coming down your hand. You're like, oh my God, I'm dying. I'm gonna bleed to death here. Those two things are relevant to this story, right? So we're back at the club, face to face. I haven't had one thought go through my head in however much time has lapsed since this happened. I lean in, my nose almost touches his. I blink, and 8 tears fall down my face. And it was literally like the kickball moment. I was like, oh my, is that water? What the? I wasn't like, I'm going to drop this like Mohandas Gandhi moment and just be like, boom, you know, Denzel. You know, like, no, that wasn't the plan. It's not a thought, it's not like an act of civil social disobedience. Like, no, this is. So what do y'all think happened next? Oh, P.S. This is not a metaphor. This actually happened in real life in a New York City nightclub. What? Yeah, I love Canada so much. I'm trying not to fall in love with every single human being in this room, but you won't let me not fall in love. Like this is, can I tell you, I've asked that like 3 times in rooms in Toronto. They're like, he hugged you? Like, they go like, did he say sorry and ask if you were okay? Take you to the washroom and get you a tissue? like, I told this story in the South Bronx. Dude's like, yo, he knocked you out, son. And everyone's like, yeah. He did not hug me, but that would have been beautiful. But his reaction was maybe as surprising as him hugging me. The tears fall down my face, and this dude, that abruptly, jumps back and is like, all right, chill, yo, relax. That guy's crazy, oh my God, yo. And like, everyone is like, yo, like falling over tables, falling over chairs, like, what the? It was literally like I'd been like, oh yeah, I forgot about this grenade in my back pocket. We all died, boom, you know what I mean? Like, what's up now? Oh yeah, I forgot about the nuclear warhead in my sock, boom, you know what I'm saying? Like people jump back, like I literally pulled a Gatling gun out and was like, oh yeah, what's up now? You know what I mean? And like, immediately everything gets diffused. We go tumbling down the staircase, and my boy is like grabbing me, we're like stumbling, we're like fumbling down the, like people were like a riot ensued. Like I literally like dropped in, was like boom, and everyone is like, nobody laughed. Like they had a reaction that was so extreme, it was like hysteria. It was like someone pulled a gun or dropped a grenade in the middle of the dance floor, right? My friend's like, what are you doing? No, what are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. It's 3:15 in the morning at the club, and you're trying to be Denzel Washington. What are you doing? And I was like, I don't know. And it became this story that we talked about for years. You ever have a story like that? Something that takes you years to digest and process? And it's not until like years later that you even understand what took place when you were there? It was a story we talk about like late at night on like Friday nights, Saturday nights. We joke about it. Like, yo, remember that time like, yo, so we're at the club with Carlos. It's a true story, right? Like, we're about to die. And then he dropped like the Denzel Washington octuple tear and we lived. Y'all remember that? Like, oh my God. And it was 2 years later, I'm 25 years old. And I finally realized what happened that night. And this is what I mean when I say the body is the source of the greatest wisdom we are capable of. And it's this. What makes us live in a world where this narrative of being a man has stakes that are so high and so important, and I put important in quotes, that we're ready to lose our own life or take another man's life over nothing like this. And I know nothing about this dude. This dude looks just like me. Probably like a Puerto Rican dude. He's my same height, my same build. I don't know anything about him. I don't know about his grandmother. He probably lives in El Barrio. She like chops up broccoli and sings songs from La Isla and like tells him how beautiful he is and how much she loves him. I don't know about his like little 8-year-old sister. He comes home to his apartment and she sprints full speed and she like wraps her arms around him and she won't let go and he drags her for 25 feet and that's her hero. Or his cousin who always wants the same shoes he has because that's the greatest role model he thinks he'll ever have in his life. I know none of that. I just know a guy bumped against me. He asked me what's up. And in a tenth of a second, if those tears hadn't fallen down my face, I would have been ready to die over my idea of what a man is. I would have been ready to kill over that. We all might have died. And my body did that math in a tenth of a second, a lot faster than my mind could. And that's why those tears came down my face. And I realized something else that night. This idea of masculinity, or expressiveness, or emotional literacy is so forbidden, is so punished. To be that publicly expressive of my grief that I didn't even understand was the equivalent of dropping a grenade in the middle of the dance floor. It was the equivalent of pulling out a machine gun. I realized that's what our emotions have become. And that was the day I decided. I said, I'm going to give everything in my life, everything in my art, to challenging this destructive narrative of being a man. And I'm going to try to give other men permission to have us embrace our authentic, our fullest, and our best selves. Not have to hide from the words beautiful, and I love you, and I'm sorry, and I'm scared, and I need help, and I want to be better, and I don't know what to do right now. And when I decided that, I have to be real, like, that was the first time I think I experienced true, authentic joy. And it was the moment I, for the first time in my life, found real love with my partner. When I was able to pull off all that wreckage and all that debris and all those masks and all those shields and just be raw and shaking and vulnerable and beautiful and sensitive and awkward and human. And there are many pieces I wrote to reflect on the different dimensions of this masculinity. And one of the first ones that I wrote was actually in reflection of an exercise I did when I was in college. And my college was not some like evolved, you know what I mean, super thoughtful, like cultural landscape like UTSC. You know what I'm saying? Like, it wasn't like that, right? And I remember especially with guys, like they were super awkward about men showing any level of affection. Right? So like anything more than a man hug and people would freak out. You all know about the man hug, right? You have man hugs in Canada? Yeah? Wait, Rendell, you want to show everyone the man hug? Okay, cool, all right. We'll get up over here. Just give me some space, man. Okay, cool, all right. Y'all know the man hug, right? Okay, it goes like this. All right, cool, all right, cool. All right, all right, cool. All right. No, whoa, that's not the man hug. No, that's not the man hug. No, come on. Yeah, all right, cool, thanks. All right, no homo, man. All right, cool, yeah. All right, no homo, pause. You know what I mean? Like, that's like literally how my college campus was. So I was like, I'm gonna do an experiment. I'm gonna walk around my college for 1 hour, holding my boy Gino's hand like this, fingers interlinked, and I'm just gonna like see what happens. Just see what happens. And this piece is a true story about what transpired in that hour. And it's called Hand Stitch. And it goes like this. I'm holding my friend Gino's hand and asking the Army recruiter for more information. About the Marines, please, I say. He fidgets with his cufflinks, paws at his necklace through his shirt, drags the back of his hand across the close-shaven sandpaper of his chin. Gino is staring him down. Through the eyeliner he wears like a middle finger. We watch this stranger, caught between the trained movements of a machine and the churned butter in his body, just like mine. 2 months before, when I said hell no to a trip to the gay club. I just don't want to lead anyone on. It'd be like colonizing the space, I said, which sounds a lot better than I'm uncomfortable. I wouldn't know how to stand. What do I do if a song I like comes on? In East Africa, I walked the dirt roads of a violent slum. My pinky finger, intimately wrapped around the smallest digit of the most infamous thug on the block. He was my friend. It is how friends walk the streets there. When I greet my Iranian friend's father, we embrace cheeks twice. In Thailand, my host casually patted my leg at the first family dinner. I nearly jumped out the window, thinking he was reaching for something else. Everyone laughed, probably confused as to why this strange foreigner had been trained to be so foreign to the gentle touch of a man. A passerby gives me and Gino matching names. I tongue the word around in my mouth. Feel the tender sting make a home in my torso. Stare at the word brotherhood splayed across a camouflage banner. The recruiter stares down at the table, as though it holds the secret code to life's great questions. His corrected stutter and slightly overcompensating stance blend into the decorations behind him. So much so that I can barely even tell he is still there. He pretends as if we are not. begin sorting and then resorting the 3 lonely pamphlets dwarfed by the large rectangular table where they now sit. Boys, seriously, please. I'm just doing my job. His mouth begs in a voice so small and so human. It makes me feel like I have just blurted out a secret. This man has been giving his life to guard like freedom. Asking the men in the room for a second. Can you think of examples in your life with other men where either you feel like there's an unspoken rule in place, where you can't engage in some way and get a closeness with somebody else? Whether it's an emotional intimacy, physical affection, anything. And you feel like you're forbidden to do it? A story where that happened? Or a moment where you only learned you'd crossed that boundary later, and there was a price to be paid for that. Yeah, Rendell? Yeah. Yeah?
I was in grade 12, and so I had a friend named Jordan, and I knew him since I was 10 years old. It's like one of the longest friends I've had now. And I was in India. When I went to India, like, I just opened up my whole life, really changing my whole life about like everything, really. So I'm just thinking about Jordan. I'm just thinking about Jordan. You know, we were really good kids growing up, but he was kind of finding himself in the wrong path, right? So I'm on Facebook in India, and I just wrote this long, you know, I love to write, right? So I wrote this long letter to him saying, yo, Jordan, we've known each other for a long time. I just wish you well, and da-da-da-da-da-da-da.
And you hadn't talked to him in a while?
I haven't talked to him since I left, right? So he replied and said, yeah. I was like, all right, cool. So then
he just wrote yeah.
Yeah, he just wrote yeah. YouTube type of thing, you know what I mean? So I get back I get back, and a few of my friends are laughing at me. And I don't know why they're laughing. You know what I'm saying? My friend Kadeem in the back, actually, he told me, he's like, yo, Jordan told everybody that I had wrote him this long letter. And everybody started looking at me like I was, you know what I mean? Like, not cool, not really, you know what I mean? So, I never knew I couldn't express my feelings to how I felt about the longest friend that I've had. You know what I mean? And yeah, like literally, I lost friends because of this incident.
Wow.
And I'm glad I kind of lost these friends because So yeah, that was an incident that happened.
But the implication was what? About you sharing, spilling yourself out, and saying how much you cared about it. What was the implication? What was the implication by that letter? Like, what did they think that meant?
They thought I was gay, or they thought that I was homoerotic. You know what I mean? They thought like it was weird because I never thought that it was wrong for a second. I didn't think he would say anything to anybody. You know what I mean? But I feel the fact within himself he wasn't used to that. You know what I mean? So I don't even think he got that type of endearment from his own father, right? So I think that's why it kind of like pushed him back a second, and he explained to everybody, and
Isn't that amazing how universal that is in so many places I go, right? Like, number one, that the idea is that any intimacy sexual intimacy with men in the hyper-machismo Colombian narrative that I grew up in was always unacceptable, right? But more than that, any intimacy, like emotional intimacy, right? Like telling your best friend that you love them, you know? I talk about it in my book, like my best friend was like, we were both going through a really hard time. He was like, Carlos, I love you. And I was like, I love you too, man. All right, cool, peace. And I was like, hung up the phone. You know what I mean? Or like another one of my best friends, like he gave me a hug. His marriage had just fallen apart, or he was engaged and his fiance had just broken up with him. And I'd been there for him through a really hard time. And he gave me a hug and he gave me like a kiss on the cheek. He said, I love you so much. And like as he kissed me, I was like, oh my God, what is that? Ah! Like a kiss between like brothers. You know what I'm saying? Can any guys relate to that moment? Yeah. I'm right here.
I think like many guys have a problem answering back words like I miss you, for example, as a friend.
Wow, say I miss you. Wow.
Or like, no, I mean, even answering back the word I miss you. I mean, I'd say to friends in high school, for example, and some of them would change and start saying it back, but many would be like, yeah, me too, man. Or like,
To say the word, that's deep, right? To say the words, yeah, I love you. Yeah, me too. I'll see you later. Cool. You like slam the door. You know what I mean, right? Wow, that's deep. Because to say the words is a whole different thing, right? You know those moments where you start saying the words and your voice starts shaking? You're like, okay, cool. Take care. Ditto. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like, you're trying to find some way to like manage whatever's about to happen that you can't control. That's super deep. Any other guys in this room can relate to that? That's so deep. I feel like that's something like what I loved so much about Randell, what you were saying when you were up here. First of all, like there was so much like courage of everyone. Can we clap again for everyone who like performed tonight? Like it took like some serious intervention from some other source outside of me to try to recenter myself after like taking all that in, because I was like very shaken up and moved. But just like how like vulnerable and open you were and like how courageous and beautiful it was, like I feel like when I was younger, there were two words that I had to avoid like landmines. Love was one, and the other was beautiful. And what were the two acceptable occurrences where I could use love or beautiful as a man, as a guy? To my mom, yes. I love that you said to any female, exactly. Like, yeah, I love you. I love you. You're beautiful. What are you doing later? You know, like that was how, like that, like totally inauthentic, totally manipulative and divisive and being used to get something. It was used as a means to an end. It was never like, I love you so much. You're so beautiful. You know what I mean? Like really like embodying like the fullness of what that means. Which brings me to this poem. Is anyone else here, anyone here have a little sister, a daughter, a niece who's a teenager? So my little sister is 16 years old. She is 16, and I am scared to death of the world she lives in. I don't know how any of the women in this room, I don't know how you like do it, because, and I'm a man and there's so many things that I will never have even the remotest understanding of from a personal standpoint. But it feels like over the last few years, and it feels like it's been almost accelerated by social media and different things. Does anyone feel like the violence against women and the sexual violence has been accelerated? These like extreme, outlandish examples over the last few years? Is it just me? Anybody else like feel like that's happening, right? Like it is out of control. I'm talking about Steubenville, the U.S. Naval Academy, in Delhi on the bus, like all that stuff, right? Like, but these cases where there are these like boys, I mean they're boys, doing these horrific acts, like graphic, dehumanizing, like disgusting acts of violence against women, and they'll record it. And it'll be on YouTube, and it'll be on Facebook, and they'll share it with everyone in their school, right? Like, yeah.
I just want to, do you know about rape face? Does anyone know about rape face?
I don't know about rape face. Wow.
It's essentially when it's usually men who imitate someone being raped, and what would your rape face look like? So if you, there's actually a poignant article that's going around. I've seen it on Facebook, and the article is how to talk to your son about rape face, and there's like a hashtag in front of it. So this is the culture that we're living in now. So that's for me the example that comes to mind.
Or even like, or another thing I think of too is like, I feel like I just found out. I feel like maybe I travel too much and don't like watch the news or read enough articles as I want to, or as I should. Anyone ever heard of like revenge porn? Yeah. Has anyone ever heard about this? Revenge porn? I was having a conversation like this like 2 weeks ago and someone told me about it. So somebody will like be with a partner in an intimate moment, they'll record it, they'll break up, and their partner, but it's like revenge porn specifically though, like overwhelmingly it's like men showing it of their ex-partners that were women. And then like putting it online with their name, their full name, their face, everything. So for like the rest of that, so you're like going to become like a congresswoman, right? You're like going for like your interview with like the National Institute of Health, and they Google you, and it comes up like you like having sex with your ex-partner. Can you even like imagine like I feel like I meet amazing people all the time, and like I have such a belief in human beings, and like I see like everyone who spoke today, and like Reese, is that your name? I was like, I've got your name right. I feel really bad. Like Reese and like Randell, and like I'm forgetting everyone's names now. But what are your names? What? Renee. That's my sister-in-law's name. I love it. Charney. And like, I'm like, yo, anything's possible. Like, we're good, right? You see everyone speak or like sing songs, you're like, how could we ever be worried about humanity, right? And then I hear about stuff like that, and I'm just like, oh, I think the thing that horrifies me, it compounds the hurt, is how few men are outraged by this. They may be outraged by this, but how few men are like talking about this, like publicly being like, yo, we gotta do something. I'm talking to like other guys, like we gotta do, like, I know all the men in this room, and I know like most men in general, like good men, right? Like I feel like we want to be good men, but there's so many things in our culture that reward us being horrific to other people, right? I know me, I was always more valued my whole life when I was younger for whose ass I could kick, as opposed to like who I could love, how like humble I could be, how I could diffuse a fight, right? So this is my call. This is like my desperate cry out, my public outcry, my anything, with my fear for my older sister Sarita, my younger sister Maita, my mother, my stepmother, my 4 aunts, every woman in this room, every little sister you have, the daughter I might one day have. This is my poem in reaction to and in response to this society where these horrific acts of violence against women and sexual violence that seem so extreme, it's almost normalized at this point, right? Like you see so many articles on CNN, like, you know what I mean? Like, oh, another human trafficking article. All right, you know what I mean? Like, even, no matter how like conscious you are, at a certain point there's like a fatigue. Like it is happening so often. I want to give a trigger warning before this piece. If you want to walk out right now, I'm not going to take it personally. Yeah.
I should press this earlier.
Yeah.
Am I going to record this?
Yeah, no, you record it. Sure, go for it. That's fine.
I explained to you I was a high school teacher.
Yeah, go for it. That's all good. But this, I don't know how else to talk about violence against women and sexual violence. And this is a poem I wrote, like feeling like I am scared to death. And I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. But I know that most men, and a lot of the men that I know, we're good guys. Guys, throw a fist up. Throw a fist up because we're trying to be better men. Hell yeah. You know what I mean? We're trying to be better men. And like, I know that we're beautiful, and I know that we're worth more than that. I know we're not down with this. And like, for us to brainstorm and support each other in making sure there's a world where this doesn't exist. And this is called When. And it goes like this. When a woman's body is a riddle to solve or steal the answer for. When her voice is only heard in 2 volumes, too soft or too loud. When for too many women it's neither. The sound is turned off. When she's overqualified, underpaid, overworked, understated, then overlooked when it's time for a promotion. When a passed out 16-year-old girl becomes a forgotten city wall, a blighted building, a blow-up doll. When rape becomes a fashion critique, then a sob story about 2 football players losing their way. When owning your body is understood for me, but still in federal appellate courts for my 2 sisters, my mother, my stepmother, my 4 aunts, every mother, sister, woman I have ever met, but their smiles are not non-consensual, their frowns a negligent mother. When the miracle of a woman's body is mandated into flaw, because old men who drink together say it is so, who bend and invent words they use as proof, claim politics, claim law, claim religion. When my 7th grade student gets catcalled on the way to school by a middle-aged man and everyone in the room giggles, rolls their eyes, calls it Tuesday. When women are called girls, girls are called young women. An 11-year-old in Texas who was gang raped by 20 men is called seductress, called a spider who lured them in, called anything but human. When Delhi, when Eastern Congo, when Steubenville, when U.S. Naval Academy, when your basement, while you were refilling chips during the Super Bowl, when will men drop their arms? Stop using bodies as props or weapons. Pry open our rusted gates, remove the masks, offer the world our softness. When will hands exist to hold instead of break, mold instead of take? When will our tears stream baptism, chest be shelter, lips a front door, my throat first and foremost made for song, made to say the words, I love you, I'm sorry, beautiful, I am scared. I am so much more than all of this wreckage. I am so tired of breaking, of being anything but this shaking magic in my gut. Please, just hold me, please. I love you so much. I'm trying to gauge time right here because I want to leave a little bit of time if people have a Q&A afterwards. I want to do one more poem. Is my time okay right now? If I do one more poem and we open up for a Q&A? I'm trying to gauge the time here responsibly. Really quickly, I want to say a huge thank you to Build.Act.Change and their partners at UTSC. Give it up for them. I want to thank the Scarborough Women's Center. I want to thank the BAC volunteers and staff. I want to thank Rise. My gosh. Abuse survival stories. Oh my gosh. Amazing. I want to thank, I don't see him, but Jeff Pereira and the White Ribbon Campaign. And last but certainly not least, I want to thank Reshma Drodia. She is an amazing... Please stand up. Please stand up. Please stand up. I'm dead serious about this. I know we do tough work. She's a social worker. I used to be a social worker. Like, we got to give like ovations to people who are doing the kind of work that Reshma is doing, to the kind of work that you're doing, to the kind of work that Rise is doing. Like, we need to, and something else we need to do, like this work, it gets lonely. It gets scary. You know what I'm saying? I did this women's conference last week in Colorado, and this woman who did one of the keynotes, she was saying how men's rights activists posted a picture of her house on a website with an address, her name, and her phone number. And they said there was a reward for people who would rape and kill her. This is 2013. I don't get anything near that. I've had people tell me they're going to kill me for like 10 years. You know what I'm saying? But it's amazing how entitled a lot of these men feel, especially with feminists who are speaking out and women who are talking about this stuff. It's not just Alice Paul who was getting beaten and almost killed over women's suffrage. You know what I'm saying? In the early 1900s. It's women today who are getting their picture put online, pictures of their house, pictures of their kids, the names of their kids and their pets, saying whoever kills them gets a reward. This is 2013. This is real shit. So we got to tell people like Reshma that we love her and she's beautiful and we care about her and we support her.
Right here. This is the executive director of Scarborough Women's Center. She has been doing this work for 30 years. 30 years. She has done so much work for this community, I cannot even tell you. And I would like everyone
we all stand up. I have this big mission of everything that I care about, and it's this. People always ask me, they're like, Carlos, you read a bunch of poems. You get up and tell crazy stories from your life. You act silly and you act crazy and you say a bunch of crazy stuff and whatever else, right? So what do you do? What do you do? What do you want me to do? Here's what I want you to do. I want everyone in this room to make a world where men like Randell are the sexiest human being on earth. Okay? No. And here, let me clarify. Sure, he's very superficially good looking, but I mean beyond that. You know what I'm saying? I mean like not because of his good looks. I mean like that kind of a man is gorgeous. Like strong women are the women that are the stars of the world that we live in. You know what I'm saying? Where that is more beautiful than anything else. Do you know what I'm saying? Like where we celebrate and teach the younger kids, like, dude, I want to grow up. Dude, I don't want to become more Yusuf. I want to be Randell when I grow up. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm dead serious. Like, and I feel like we can't overlook like the small things that happen in our lives. That is how we change the world. That is how we shift culture. It happens in our homes. It happens in our classrooms. It happens at the bus stop. It happens with the language and the words that we use. It happens with how we treat each other, how we look at each other. And so I think that we all are doing something. I think this is doing something. And this is the last thing I want to say before this last poem, and then we'll open up for a Q&A. But I've lost a lot of people in my life unexpectedly. This means something. Like this last hour and a half, like this means something. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like we need to tell each other. We got to tell each other. We got to tell each other it matters. We got to tell each other we care. Like, I've lost people without telling them how much I love them, with never saying I love you to them, never telling them how beautiful they were, and I never got that moment back. So like, tell your friend, be awkward, say the wrong thing and have it be the right thing. Get choked up, get all weepy-eyed, and have it mean more to them than anything they've ever heard in their lives. You know what I'm saying? We need to embrace each other, like literally and figuratively. And we got to tell each other. And I want to say, like, if I never see any of you ever again, like the trajectory of my life is a little bit better because of this hour and a half that we shared. I'm going to make a deal with everyone right now. We're going to have a Q&A afterwards, but I know some people are shyer and they won't think of a question they want to think up. If you reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter, clap if you're on Facebook or Twitter, anybody, right? I promise I will personally respond to you, okay? I promise I will personally respond to you. Put the hashtag UTSC beautiful. Okay? My website's really easy. It's carloslive.com. Carlos what? Live. Carlos, like the really easy to spell Spanish name. Live, like what happened right here, one word together. You don't have to be fluent in Spanish to remember that. carloslive.com. You can find my Facebook and Twitter on there. If you send me a note, if you send me a tweet, if you have a question to follow up, if you felt something today and you want to reach out to me, I promise I will personally respond to you. UTSC beautiful. Why? Because you're beautiful. You're damn right. You're damn right. This last piece is the piece that I think is most fitting for me to end with. In light of the story about Sarah Alcid from Everyday Feminism getting death threats and like life and death harassment from men because of the work and the things she talks about. I feel like there are a lot of people who want to censor the stories that we need to tell. They want to change the way we say it. They want to block the words we use. They want to restrict the forums we can talk about them. And I want to tell you that all of that's bullshit. We need to reclaim those spaces. We need to take them back. And we need to make sure our stories get heard by any means necessary. And this poem, unfortunately, is inspired by things that I really saw and things that I really experienced when I was a social worker in Harlem in the Bronx. And everything in this poem is true. It's real things that happened to people I worked with, students I had. And the title of the poem is the actual question that one of my students asked me because she didn't know what a word meant. And it's a word that I thought was very important that she understood. It's a word I never wanted her to forget, what the relevance of it was to her life. And the question she asked me is the title of this poem, and it is, what is genocide? And it goes like this. Their high school principal told me I couldn't teach poetry with profanity, so I asked my students, raise your hand if you've heard of the Holocaust. In unison, their arms rose up like poisonous gas and straightened out like an SS infantry. Okay, please put your hands down. Now raise your hand if you've heard of the Rwandan genocide. Blank stares. Mixed with curious ignorance, a quivering hand out of the crowd, halfway raised like a lone survivor, struggling to stand up in Kigali. Luce, are you sure about that? No, that's what I thought. Carlos? What's genocide? They won't let you hear the truth at school if a person says fuck. Can't even talk about fuck even though a third of their senior class is pregnant. I can't teach an 18-year-old girl in a public school how to use a condom that will save her life, and that of the orphan she'll be forced to give to the foster care system. Carlos, how many 13-year-olds do you know that are HIV positive? Honestly, none. But I do visit a shelter every Monday and talk with 6 12-year-old girls with diagnosed AIDS, while 4th graders 3 blocks away give little boys blowjobs during recess. I'm an 11-year-old gang member in the South Bronx who carries a semi-automatic weapon in study hall so he can make it home. And you want me to censor my language, Carlos? What's genocide? Your books leave out Emmett Till and Medgar Evers. Call themselves world history and don't mention King Leopold, or diamond mines call themselves politics in the modern world and don't mention apartheid. Carlos, what's genocide? You wonder why children hide in adult bodies, lie under light-color-eyed contact lenses, learn to fetishize the size of their ass, and simultaneously hate their lips. My students thought Che Guevara was a rapper from East Harlem, still think my Mumia t-shirt is of Bob Marley. How can literacy not include Phyllis Wheatley? Schools were built in the shadows of ghosts, filtered through incest and grinding teeth, molded under veils of extravagant ritual. Carlos, what's genocide? Rosaline, how old was she? ¿Cuántos años tuvo tu madre cuando se murió? My mother had 32 years when she died. Ella era bellísima. What's genocide? They've moved on from sterilizing Boricua women, injecting indigenous sisters with hepatitis B. Now they just kill mothers with silent poison, stain their loyalty and love into veins and suffocate them. What's genocide? Ridwan's father hung himself from the box because he thought his son was ashamed of him. What's genocide? Maureen's mother gave her skin lightening cream the day before she started the 6th grade. What's genocide? She carved straight lines into her beautiful brown thighs so she can remember what it feels like to heal. What's genocide? What's genocide? Carlos, what's genocide? Luce. This right here is genocide. Thank you all so much.